Don't ever touch my hand when I'm going for my gun!
Who are you going to trust?
Well, not us. Maybe ghost trusters or something.
How are you, you yogurt-sucking mutant?
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed today. Everything's going well.
Yeah?
That's a complete lie. I'm knackered.
Yeah. I'm a bit under the weather myself. Bit of a cold coming on here.
Well, let's skim through this episode quickly and make the best of it before your voice disappears.
No, I think I can manage to the end of this. It's an episode worth having a chat about.
Definitely.
Again, we have a different style of episode, very much set in one place.
Yeah, I mean, I think we took from the first couple, the pilot, and then episode 2, that this is what the show is, but maybe we're wrong to do that. Maybe it isn't going to have a style that it comes away from. Maybe it's just going to be a bit of a chameleon.
Sure. Fancy giving us this week's summary?
Always.
Crack on.
In Dori Day afternoon, Inspector Hammer and Dori are caught up in an armed robbery at Sledge's bank. Hammer, with only one bullet left in his gun, is forced to cooperate with the criminals as Captain Trunk leads negotiations from outside the building. When Trunk meets the robbers' demands, the hostages find themselves on board a plane with one of the gunmen in the cockpit. Hammer's efforts to improve their situation look set to lead to a messy end, but Dori is, as ever, full of surprises and takes control in a last-ditch effort to save the day.
Thanks for that, Ian. Getting better.
Well, a bit more effort put into the preparation for these last few.
We start off in a car and we've got some quite obvious ADR conversation going on between Sledge and Doro. Do you know what ADR is?
I was going to say no.
Okay, ADR, I'm trying to think what it actually stands for, but it's dubbing, so it's been recorded at a later date. Most recognisable is when they overdub or they do voiceovers for cut out swearing. So for a TV version of a yippee-ki-yay melon farmers
From Die Hard.
From Die Hard. But often they'll do it as well because the lines haven't been recorded properly the first time, or they want to add in a bit of exposition. So it can sometimes be a long shot where you don't see them speaking, or they're in a car in this case.
And you get the external.
And you just get an external and they record, because they don't have mics in the car recording it, so they're in the studio recording the dialogue, and sometimes it's quite obvious. Anyway.
One of the things that Dori says here is that Hammer should consider, I think, meditation.
Yeah. Do you think meditation is the type of thing that Hammer would get involved in?
Oh, I don't know. I think possibly, yes.
So do I.
Maybe a bit of Tai Chi in the morning.
Yeah. So we stop on the street for a potential suicide jumper.
Yeah, there's a crowd of people and the Hammer and Dori pull up and they want to know what's going on, and there's a guy across the road who's threatening to jump.
Yes. Hammer, as is his style, resolves the situation in a unorthodox manner.
Yeah, a potentially counterproductive manner, I would suggest.
What does he do?
He shoots the guy's feet and makes him kind of dance away from the bullets along the ledge until he goes back in the window.
As I said, it's unorthodox, however, as is usually the case, effective.
Well, in this case it was effective, but I don't think you can judge a course of action by its outcome.
The purpose of this scene, from our point of view, is to let us know he's got one bullet left.
That's the whole point of this, yes.
Yeah. Where do we head off to next?
Well, Hammer announces that's another life saved and he wants to go to the bank.
Yeah, he simply intends going to the ATM.
Yes.
To withdraw some cash. I don't know if it's a very old school ATM machine they had in the States in the 80s, or if it is simply just made up for the show, but it's not the type of setup you would get these days.
Yeah, well, the keypad especially, but I think American banks generally are quite far behind with their technology because they're only just getting chip and pin over there in 2016 when we've pretty much ditched it over here.
Yeah. What happens at the ATM?
It won't give him any money. It tells him he has no money.
Insufficient funds.
He's not happy.
Hammer, as you would expect, his first reaction is to pull out his Amigo and sort it out with a bullet.
Did this remind you of the vending machine?
It did, yes.
Did you think he was going to shoot it and the money would start flying out?
Obviously, I've seen this before, so I knew that he didn't, but yeah, I probably would have thought that would have been what would have happened.
That was my expectation there, yeah.
Fortunately, Dori is with him, so she advises that he simply goes into the bank and tries to sort it out by having a chat.
Yeah, she uses the phrase, straighten it out like civil human beings, and she reiterates that to Hammer later in the episode.
So we're inside the bank and we see a very snooty, ruthless, I don't know if he's a manager or just a teller, but he is giving an old lady about 3 days, I think it is, to get out of her house. They're foreclosing on it.
Yeah, he's not sympathetic to the lady at all. He's very unpleasant.
He's a scumbag.
That's the way he is.
No way to treat a customer.
Yeah, well, I think we're just establishing that's your stereotypical bank manager who cares about the bottom line.
And again, like we have mentioned in previous episodes, and we will in future episodes, it's amazing how even the issues and the targets of this satire are just as relevant today, even more so relevant today as they were in 1986. So we've got bankers being the butt of jokes and been seen to be horrible, ruthless creatures.
Yeah, well, bankers haven't really grown in the popular opinion to be thought of positively, I would
Certainly
say.
not grown enough, retracted.
Hammer gets his chance to speak to the man after the old lady's given a plush bunny to take away.
Correct. He insists that he does have funds and he wants his money right now, but the banker, he mentions a sci-fi movie.
Does he?
Yep. He insists that HAL 9000 never makes mistakes. That's 2001 The Space Odyssey.
Not Oddity.
Not Oddity. No.
Okay.
That could be a Sledgehammer
It could
title.
be. Yeah.
So the manager says it's unlikely or it's impossible that the machine's made a mistake, but he will look into it anyway.
Your name, please?
Sledgehammer.
Sledge Hammer. Where were you born? A tool shed?
You think that's funny? You can do better than that. You see, I'm not as easy an audience as the old lady. So go ahead, make me laugh, or I'll have you in stitches.
Hammer, let him go. Remember what I said? Civil human being?
All right. I do want one of those bank bunnies.
I like that. It's the first time we've had any kind of indication that people in the Sledgehammer universe consider the name Sledgehammer to be a bit ridiculous.
Is that the first time?
I don't think anyone's mentioned it being unusual before. I don't recall anyway. Perhaps they did and I missed it.
No, I make you right, actually, thinking about it. Yeah. So at this point, a couple of guys with guns decide to rob the bank, and they even smash a kiddie's piggy bank.
Despicable behaviour.
Nasty creatures, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Sledge obviously again wants to resort to pulling his compadre to resolve it.
Well, they certainly look like the sort of guys he could handle.
Yes, but he, as we know, only has one bullet left, and there's two of them with guns.
That's true.
It's actually Dori that stops him reaching for his gun. We heard it at the top of the podcast.
We did. She's just had her bag taken, or her purse taken that had her gun in it, so she is unarmed. And Hammer goes for his gun and she restrains him.
And he wasn't very happy with that at all.
No, we heard that, didn't we? He was... And her response to that was, only a very disturbed person would say that.
Yeah, it was quite nice.
And it's treated almost like an aside. He doesn't get to respond to that. They move on.
Then we have a nice scene where Hammer assumes that they have a silent alarm. He sees a button on the floor.
Yes, it's a set piece where you've got, it's almost like musical statues. He is trying to avoid being seen moving and he's doing the splits to reach this alarm.
Yeah, it's
behind
getting
his-
lower and lower.
Yeah,
The
how low
bank-
can he go?
Yeah, the bank manager, when he's told to hit the alarm, refuses to. You think he's just being either professional or cowardly.
Yeah.
So after a few of these interludes where Hammer is motionless, legs spread, he eventually reaches the button with his foot.
He does, but it's not a silent alarm.
No, at that point I think the manager makes it clear.
It's just, sir, we do not have a silent alarm.
And we then have a nice couple of lines. So within seconds, the place is swarmed with uniformed cops.
Yes, and the first of the I think they've named each other accidentally by this stage. The first guy, I think you said Cliff.
The leader is Cliff, I think.
Yeah, he wants to know how the police got there so fast.
So what does Sledge say?
There's a donut shop around the corner.
Enjoyed that.
Typical police, eh?
Yeah. So we've now got a hostage stroke siege situation.
Yeah, and the police force is being headed up by Captain Trunk.
Mayjoy is there. He briefs Trunk on the situation, and we hear him actually feeling quite sorry for those poor robbers who have to deal with Hammer.
Yeah, they work out Sledge is in there because his car's parked outside.
Yeah. We're back inside the bank, and Cliff gives Sledge a bit of a slap, a bit of a smack.
He is taunting the man.
Makes him call him Sir.
He does. And Hammer reluctantly goes along with this for now.
Yes, he does call him Sir through gritted teeth, but then, like a little kid, turns to Dori and says, "It doesn't count, I had my fingers crossed."
Yeah.
Trunk has a phone, or
Yes.
a phone connection to the bank, and he makes this call, and Sledge is told to answer it.
Yes, he's golden boy at this stage, I think. He's made to answer the phone.
So just to be clear, they do not know, these robbers don't know that Sledge and Dori are cops.
No, they haven't figured it.
I think we see them, there's one guard in the place who was having a sleep, got up and was knocked out, and the remainder of the episode remains either unconscious or just having a sleep.
Yeah, he doesn't return to consciousness at any stage.
When Trunk calls through, Sledge picks up the phone and answers, "Hostage speaking."
Yes. But Trunk knows it's him,
Yes.
and he tells him not to put anybody at risk.
He asks the robbers to come out, but they refuse.
They've seen this movie,
Yes, they have seen Dog Day Afternoon.
so they know that as soon as they step out, they'll get shot.
Yes, we'll talk about that movie in the trivia later.
Okay.
Sledge again is itching to pull his gun. A few times in this episode we see him, his natural reaction, his hand moves
like-
towards it.
For anyone that's watched the Lord of the Rings movies, it's like the way Frodo gets with his ring towards the end when he can't keep his hands away. It's talking to him.
It's a little bit later in the bank, and we see Sledge being the errand boy for the robbers. He brings over a coffee, but he's not very happy with the predicament, is he?
No, he's definitely struggling.
Here's your coffee, sir.
Thanks, sweetheart.
This guy's dead meat. One bullet, two scumsuckers. Decisions, huh? I just have to figure out how to do it.
Do what?
Get him to stand in single file.
Hey, mister, I'm hungry.
I'm hungry too. Yeah, we're hungry too. Okay. We'll get some food. Everybody like pizza?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I am actually on a rather strict macrobiotic diet. Well, unless it's pepperoni, because in that case, that's another little thing. I love any kind of, or fish. It doesn't, pizza would be great.
I've said it before, I just love his facial reactions, his mannerisms, how he, again, I have said it before, he reminds me very much of Chevy Chase.
Right.
And the way he sort of stutters and just his body language. And I think Chevy actually could possibly have played Hammer. The only thing is Chevy's not regarded as being menacing enough, I don't think.
Right.
He's more of a comedy character, but
Bit lightweight.
yeah, he could have pulled it off, but I think, yeah, it's hard to see Chevy as this sort of tough guy.
I think that's reasonable.
So what happens next? Where are we?
The pizzas arrive.
Yeah, well, outside we see a cop being dressed as a pizza delivery guy.
Yeah.
And we see that he has a gun strapped to his ankle. Even as a kid, I always thought to myself, you've got so many places to place this gun.
Yeah, in one of the pizza boxes.
Yes, that would be the obvious one, wouldn't it?
In the middle of the pile.
Yeah, or just underneath, holding it like as you're, holding the pizza box underneath.
Yeah.
Strapping a gun to your ankle it's an awkward place to get it quickly.
Especially when they don't do a good job of it.
They do a terrible job. What happens?
Well, when he goes in, he gets patted down, they don't find the gun. But 2 or 3 steps into the room, it falls out his trouser leg and drags along the ground behind him on a bandage.
I don't know who's more ridiculous, the cops for doing that or Lou for not checking all the way down to his ankle where there's a gun strapped.
Yeah. Hammer looks utterly bemused by how incompetent this is.
And that's saying something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, even he's thinking this is not professional, this is poor quality policing.
He is. But he does stick up for the guy because he's accused by Cliff of being a cop. And Hammer says, well, no, not necessarily, because the competition between pizza joints is fierce.
Yes. And then a chair is placed in front of the main door. And we find out the Sledge is the obvious choice to sit there for an execution. I think what's happened here is because of this ploy by the cops, they're going to kill someone as a punishment.
Yeah, and Sledge does a bit of grandstanding, makes sure it's him that's selected, but then Dori steps in.
Yes, she pulls her badge out and insists that it should be her. So because she's a cop, they swap places, and as they walk by each other, she whispers that this is Sledge's chance to take his shot.
Yeah, and then we get sort of a weird cut where it goes from them putting her in the chair to Cliff sitting somewhere.
Yes. Is this the point where you see Hammer again moving to the...
Well, yeah, he goes to Cliff, who's kind of off to the side now, and in no way in line with Lou, and then you get back to Hammer, drawing his gun, and you hear Trunk.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think at that point it may have been a fade for commercial purposes.
Trunk says that the police are going to accede to the demands of the criminals, and Hammer's shot is then blocked by celebrating hostages.
Yes.
Which is unfortunate.
It is, and he breathlessly tells Gunny that he will need to take a cold shower if this sort of thing keeps up.
Yeah, he can't handle it.
Doro tries to stand up, but I think it's Cliff tells her not to move, and he provides some insight into his psyche and motivation.
Yeah, he explains that the only thing he likes less than a cop is a chick who's a cop.
Yeah, women cops. His mother was one, and she apparently breastfed him with a shoulder holster, and you can see Sledge
approvingly
nodding. Thinking, yeah, I've been there before.
But for this guy to bear a grudge from a time before he can remember, when he was a baby, I suspect what he's really upset about is his mother devoting her life to the job and not to him, I guess. That's maybe the implication.
That'd be the sensible, obvious conclusion to get to. So he's about to draw on Dori, this is Cliff, but Hammer talks him out of it.
Yeah. Hammer comes over and intervenes and says, don't do anything stupid, you're getting what you wanted.
And at this point, they sort of stare at each other, and you can see how obvious this Cliff is a reflection of Hammer. I mean, the haircut, the suits, the sports jacket. Later on, he has a similar "Don't touch me when I'm going
for my..."
now,
isn't it? He says to Hammer, "Okay, fair enough, I won't shoot her, but don't ever touch my hand when I'm going for my gun."
And Hammer realises the similarities. I think
there's a moment for Hammer there, isn't there?
Yeah. So we're outside and we see the airport bus pull up, and the hostages have got to make a human shield around Cliff and Lou in order for them to move out. Hammer is not so comfortable with this, is he?
They're making him hold hands with the guy, and for some reason this really upsets him.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? He's one of these 80s macho guys.
I mean, I guess he feels like he's being emasculated, but it's a little bit silly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he goes ahead with it anyway because he's forced to.
Yep.
And I think it's Mayjoy passes comment as they leave the building.
Yeah, he's mocking him and laughing.
A bit like last week when they were mocking him for being chicken when he wouldn't have the showdown.
Sure. And Mayjoy also, he mentions, or he can't believe that Trunk gave in to their demands so easily. The Trunk thinks he's got an ace up his sleeve.
Yeah, there's no pilot for the plane that they've asked for. But as the hostages are getting on the bus, Hammer does something bold and brave and saves the child.
He does. He tells him to run for it.
And the child escapes.
Yeah, well, you say bold, and it's certainly bold. I'm not sure how brave it is, because it wasn't his life he's putting on the line. I mean, the running child may have been shot by one of the... I mean, perhaps I would call it bold and stupid.
Well, they might have shot Hammer for letting him go, for... Who knows? Anyway, they don't.
And Hammer certainly, what we do know is he's got the kid's interest at heart.
He definitely does. And the rest of the hostages end up on the bus with Dori driving.
We also find out that Lou, the second in command, one of his motivations for taking part in the robbery.
His sister needs an operation.
Yeah, so we think, fair enough, that's maybe a reasonable excuse.
Yeah, and I think Hammer thinks that too, because the next time we see them, they're on the bus, and he sympathises with Lou.
But we find out she is 16 and having a nose job.
It's not quite the same, is it?
Again, I think this is a point they're making about the superficial nature of perhaps the 80s when it was all about the looks and...
Yeah, I guess. We get another one of these sort of fade out and in, and we see the hostages singing 99 bottles of beer on the wall. Yeah, I think they've not got very far through it, and they've reached the airport already.
They have. So they get onto the plane, and Dori points out what is missing.
Yeah, she's pointing out there's no pilot, and meanwhile...
Well, yes, she says to Hammer, can you see what's missing? Or do you know what's missing?
Oh, yes. Yes, Hammer thinks the little bottles of booze.
Tiny bottles of liquor.
But no, it's a pilot. And at the same time, Mayjoy and Trunk are discussing this out at the fence around the airport.
And we see Trunk's confidence evaporate as the plane successfully takes off.
Yeah, for once it's not Hammer that's causing him to be dispirited.
Cliff is a pilot.
Apparently.
Now we're on the plane and the bank manager that is, he has a panic attack. And during this they make a grab for Lou and Sledge knocks him out and heads to the cockpit. Yeah,
he's improved his knocking people out skills since Witless.
Well, in fairness, I think the guy in Witless was a bigger chap.
Yeah.
A professional hitman as well.
Yeah, not just a dafty with a gun.
Yeah. He bursts into the cockpit and tells him that the flight's cancelled, maggot.
Yep, Cliff wants to know who he is.
Yeah.
He says, you're with the police department. He says, no. I am the police department. Which I thought was quite amusing.
He orders him to take the plane down, which he agrees to. So we have a bit of a drop in pressure and there's a fight in the cockpit.
Yeah, he does a bit of a nosedive there and they get into a bit of a scuffle, but Hammer gets the upper hand.
Yes, and it spills out into the main area of the plane. Sledge, as you say, has the upper hand and he exacts some revenge.
This is for that little kid's piggy bank. And this is for hitting me. And this is for calling me names. And this is for ordering pizza. And this is for making me hold hands with another guy.
What was that for?
That was gratuitous. All right. Hold your applause till the end. Now sit back and relax. We should be crashing in about 3 minutes.
I liked the escalating version of the theme tune that played during that confrontation.
Building the tension, building the drama.
The hostages are not pleased to be told they're going to crash.
No. So we're back in the cockpit and Sledge tells Dori to get out. It's for men only.
Yeah, he doesn't really labour the point though.
No, well, to an extent he sort of does because he says that she can get him a coffee if she wants. Black. Sugar makes him a bit jangly.
Yeah, he starts pressing some random buttons, which involves jettisoning all of the fuel that's in the aeroplane.
Yeah, he's useless actually, until Dori explains that she has over 1,800 hours of flight experience.
Hammer quite correctly notes that's not very much.
Is it not?
I don't think so.
I think it might be quite a lot.
I don't think you would be able to fly a plane of that size on
no,
that amount of flight.
No, you wouldn't. But 1,800 hours, if you're taking an hour at a time, I mean, remember, when you're taking a flying lesson, you're not going somewhere. You know, it's like a driving lesson. Even at a couple of hours at a time.
She's not a genuine beginner.
Well, think about it. If it was a 2 hour, if you're flying for 2 hours at a time.
900 times you do it.
That's a lot of flying.
Yes, once a week for 18 years.
Yeah. In fact, 1,800 is an awful lot of hours, I think. Before you've actually, as a learner, as it were. I mean, it's not if you're a commercial pilot and you do that, you're flying every day. Yeah. But to accumulate 1,800 hours... She's a cop, so she's doing this in her own time. Even if she was flying 5 hours per weekend, that's still an awful lot of weekends. It's an awful lot of flying.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of practice, I guess. But she's not presumably flown a plane of this calibre.
No. But if I was in his situation, I'd be quite happy with someone who had 1,800 hours of flight experience.
Well, certainly better than letting him do it.
Yeah.
But she notes immediately that all the fuel's been dumped, and Hammer says, I hate when that happens. It's just something that I say all the time to people.
Yeah. She informs him that they will have to crash land and that he is to inform the passengers and try and be positive about it.
He struggles with the positivity.
Well, first of all, he says, yeah, what's positive about it? Not everyone's going to hell.
Yeah.
And then he picks up the microphone and over the PA, he tells them that he has good news for everyone who has bought flight insurance.
Yeah.
However, what happens?
Oh, the crash goes fine. They survive the impact and the plane seems to be stable.
Apparently a great success.
Yep. But there's another twist in the tale as they leave the cockpit.
Cliff reappears and he's got a knife.
Don't know where that came from.
Don't know. He waves it to prevent anyone getting close to him and he quite stupidly backs out the door.
He must have opened the door.
Yeah, but even if it's landed on the runway, that's some drop if there's no stairs there.
Yeah, but it's not even on the runway. He falls a long way to his death on a highway.
Yes, they look out. So what's happened?
They've landed basically in the billboard.
A billboard on top of a building.
Yeah.
And it's for, what was the name of the company that the billboard was for?
I can't remember. It was a holiday company, wasn't it?
No, it was Third World Airlines.
Yes.
And Sledge makes the point, it's safer in the sky than on the highway. The epilogue takes us back to the bank, the ATM.
And it's got a new message for him. It says his ID number has been discontinued. And on this occasion, Dori gives him permission to shoot the machine.
Yep, nice ending.
Yeah, I liked it. What did you think of the episode compared to the last ones?
I enjoyed it. I think it's following the trajectory that I would expect. It's trying something different again in terms of the basically been set in one main location.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it.
Yes, a good one. In fact, I would say probably a third place behind episode 4 and episode 3.
Okay. You want some general trivia and information?
I always want some general trivia and information.
October the 24th, 1986 was its original air date. It was directed by James Sheldon, who died just a few months ago, in March this year.
Right.
He is best known for The Millionaire, The Bing Crosby Show, The Equalizer, Cagney and Lacey, The Dukes of Hazzard,
All the big hits.
MASH, Batman from the 60s,
Adam West and so on.
The Trials of O'Brien.
What's the Trials of O'Brien?
We must have mentioned it before, because O'Brien, Daniel O'Brien, was played by Peter Falk.
Ah, he was in that Columbo show.
He was. Might need to talk about that sometime. He also directed Naked City. We've mentioned that before in Columbo, yeah. A lot of Columbo alumni were involved with Naked City. The Twilight Zone and Perry Mason, to name but just a few.
The original or the revival?
The original from 1960.
Right, okay.
This was his only episode of Sledgehammer and, in fact, his last piece of directing.
What did he do after that?
He died.
30 years later?
Yeah, he retired. It was written by Mert Rich, who we've discussed before, and also Brian Pollock. Now, Pollock, as a producer, was involved with Cheers, Sister Sister, The George Carlin Show. As a writer, he wrote 10 episodes of Sledgehammer and Sister Sister, Cheers and The Simpsons. He was an Emmy winner for involvement with Cheers. Some of the guest stars. Frank Doubleday played Cliff, the leader.
Okay.
Born in 1945, he was in Escape from New York, Assault on Precinct 13. That's a good movie. The original one, John Carpenter. And T.G. Hooker. He is now, by all accounts, an acting coach and theatre director. Britt Leach played Lou, born in 1938. He has been in Weird Science, Silent Night, Deadly Night, The Waltons, and he was in The Great Outdoors with John Candy and Dan Aykroyd. Have you seen that?
I've not.
He was a guy who was struck a number of times by lightning and his hair's... It's a good movie.
Yeah.
Michael Ensign was the bank manager, born in 1944. This is his first of 2 Sledge episodes. He has also been in Titanic, Ghostbusters. I think he played the hotel manager in Ghostbusters who wanted to stiff them at first and then...
Yes, then they said they'd let the dog goes back out.
Yep. Boston Legal, Matlock, Star Trek Enterprise, Star Trek Voyager, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and Star Trek The Next Generation. And as we touched on earlier, this episode is obviously a parody of Dog Day Afternoon from 1975, which starred Al Pacino and was an Oscar-winning movie. And based on a true story as well.
Okay.
Next week,
What are we doing then?
To Sledge with Love.
Okay, well, before we go, remind folk to come and chat at sledgehammerpodcast.com or social media, Twitter and Facebook. On both of those, we're at Sledgecast. Love to hear from you. If you have the time or if you don't mind, even if you don't use iTunes to listen to the podcast, if you could nip on your podcasts app or into iTunes and rate and review the show, it would help other people find it, which would be fantastic. Until next week then, cheerio.
Bye-bye.